My name is Njeri Karuru. I work with UN Women as Program Manager for Women, Peace and Security. The objective of this documentary is basically to share with you the issues around women and peace and security that we had working on, to inform you of the results and the impact of the program, to look at the challenges we have faced during the process of implementing this program, and also to share the lessons learned to inform future programming in this area.
Watan mu 11 muna kokon dutse ba kowa.
Na rasa menene zan iya yi, naira ɗaya bani da shi, abinci ma mutane ne suke min. Yaya zan iya yi a cikin rayuwa na idan na kashe jaga? Ban sani ba. Mai gida ba aikin da yake yi, ni ba aikin da nake yi, ga kafa babu domin Boko Haram.
Na ce ban da uba, shin ɗayan ya harbe ni, sai ya ce wai an harbe ni, na ce eh.
Mothers in Mubi South community were ready and willing to give out their daughters to Boko Haram only because they enjoy a lot of benefit. If a Boko Haram is married to your daughter, the Boko Haram person takes care of you, you are the mother-in-law. There is this fear. Instead of their daughters to be killed, it's better they are seeing them alive.
Sai gashi na juye baya kawai sai na gansu da bakaken ruguna. Na gansu da bakaken ruguna kawai sun cika. Ga bindiga ne, ga sanduna ne, ga su ada ne. To ni ma gaskiya na shiga wani rami ne. Na je na buya na wuce da kyar na wuce na iso.
One fateful day we went to school, and when we came back we met our house burnt with our father inside. Life has not been easy for us.
And even we are not able to sleep in our houses. We used to run inside the bush.
While I can say without much exaggeration that out of 10 women, 8 have been violated.
In the last 2 decades, the civil population in some parts of northern Nigeria have experienced series of violent conflicts. In these regions, women and girls are mostly affected. They have always continued to endure unprecedented levels of violence. In recognition of that, the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on Women, Peace and Security was adopted to provide a broad political framework for addressing women's protection and their role in peace processes before, during, and after violent conflicts. The contribution of several international and national organizations was essential and instrumental to the practical implementation of this resolution in Nigeria. The program promoting women's engagement in peace and security in northern Nigeria, which began in 2014 and closed out in 2018, had 3 strategic components: strengthen women's role in conflict prevention, peacemaking, and peace building; mitigate the impact of conflict on women and girls; and provide a conducive environment for the effective implementation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, gender equality commitments in Nigeria.
When you look at the project document, the purpose actually is to fulfill these key areas that have been highlighted. How we went about it basically was to first do a baseline survey to determine what the issues are, to determine the situation on the ground in terms of women's participation in decision making. And what we found was actually that women are not essentially involved in decision making. Only 6% were in public decision making positions in the 3 states.
The baseline turned up a number of issues. The lack of a support system, a support mechanism for dealing with gender-specific issues related to peace and security. The gender-blind nature of the peace architecture itself, in the sense that right through the hierarchy of the peace architecture, you find that women are largely absent and they do not get to the top hierarchy of the peace architecture. They are excluded from the negotiations that take place that affect their own lives. So that was one of the things that the UN Women baseline survey helped us to understand.
Empowering women and fight against gender-based violence, for instance, is one of the spearheads of the EU's development cooperation policy. And we focused on the North because of many reasons as well: poverty, the position of women in the society in the North, and also the crisis in the North.
Women bring different dimensions to peace building. When men sit on peace building table, oftentimes they talk about power sharing. Who gets what position or who gets what resources. When women get there, they talk about peace not only by silencing the guns, but also a more sustainable reflection of how the communities can move forward after that. They think not only about themselves, but also their children. And it is from that angle that the participation of women is really, really necessary.
The objective of Component 1 was therefore to promote women's engagement in peace building and conflict management processes at all levels. This involved reforming the state peace architecture to one that was gender sensitive and enhancing the peacemaking capacities of women living in the various communities of the 3 selected states.
We want to review the state peace architecture from a gender and human rights perspective. Because we did a baseline survey and we also reviewed the peace architecture, we discovered that there is a gender gap in terms of women's active participation in the peace building processes. We want to reverse that trend, wherein we can begin to have women that sit in the decision-making table as it relates to peace and security. So the gender dimension had to be integrated. All of these successes were achieved based on first building the capacity of women, because you can't give what you don't have. So we need to demonstrate to the traditional council that these women have a role to play in terms of value addition in decision making, including peace and security.
If you look at society, many of the women are already socialized into a particular way of thinking about female leadership. Why don't we catch them young? Let's not just stop with the women. What about the girls? So we set about setting up girls' clubs in schools, in about 8 schools. And that's the most precious part of the project to me, to be honest with you. In as much as I'm so happy about what happened with the women, but the girls, oh my goodness. You saw girls who suddenly had permission to become who God destined them to be.
GEMS is a club that was set up to build a girl child and to also engage her in peace setting programs. This is a club that came into the school and shaped the life of many girls and is still doing that.
They taught me how to communicate in public.
I have seen women evolve from having no self-esteem at all, but because of various kinds of trainings, have begun to even engage with the media, have begun to take advocacies to stakeholders. The recent ones went to the House of Reps member to present their case. They begin to take advocacy to the Commissioner of Police and discuss issues of peace and security in their communities. So for me, that's a huge impact. And what I will take away from this project, the fact that women who had no self-esteem at all, who couldn't even come out of their houses, now have their self-esteem so built that they can begin to address issues in their communities.
Bana iya siyawa a gaban jama'a in yi magana. Ko da in na ga abin da ya kamata in yi magana ba zan iya yi ba. Zan yi saboda tsoro ma. Amma yanzu saboda program ɗin da nake zuwa zan iya siyawa a ko ina in yi magana na. ko a gaban president ne yanzu zan iya siyawa in yi magana na yanda ya kamata saboda koyarwar da suka yi mana.
There is boldness in women whereby they can talk with no fear.
Women were included in traditional councils as members or advisors. From the baseline of 0 in Plateau State, 107 women were included in the traditional council. In Gombe State, 240 women were added in the traditional council from the baseline of just 40 women. From the baseline of 0, Adamawa State now has 485 women in the traditional council.
Men are beginning to accept women as co-partners in development. Traditional leaders, religious leaders are beginning to also see women, that without women, development cannot take place. So they are involving them in their council, involving them and also taking advices from them.
Wannan kungiyar UN Women suka zo, suka sa aka sa ni ina ɗaya daga cikin matan da suke fadan sarki a nan Manguhali.
Ina magayakiyar sarkin Doho. Sannan ina aiki da fada.
The traditional rulers have started involving more women and appointing more women into their councils. Like you can see, I'm one of them, as the Zinarian Jimeta, that is the golden daughter of Jimeta.
The first time we went to these communities, we got a lot of resistance. A lot of them were saying that this thing we have brought is the Western culture that was coming to dilute the African man's culture. But we made them understand that culture is dynamic. Things change, and the change is for good. So these women were taught, how to manage conflict personally, to that in the home and that in the community. And this was some of the ways how we overcame some of the challenges. So with all this, the men began to accept the project. They did not just accept, but they began to support the project and support the women.
We realized that sometimes issue that we sit down and discuss with men as traditional title holders, when we invite the women separately to hear their own views and what is their own contribution, you will hear different things from what the men will say. And then you will realize so many important things from what they say. Then from there, we understand that bringing them together, we are going to achieve a lot in terms of peace and security.
Our chief have involved women in his traditional council. We have women that have gone out in other leadership positions. So we are really grateful. Without their comment, we did not know that these things, we are supposed to do these things.
So the first thing is that there was an issue, which is a traditional stool, which is entirely not their own activity. It's only the traditional council that will resolve a traditional problem, traditional stool problem or dispute. But let me tell you something. The trained WPS women were the ones who gave us an insight of how we are going to resolve that issue. And we apply it. And now we have peace in that area, that is Kaswan, Ale, and Pumbush.
We were mixed with both Muslims and Christians before. Before UN Women comes in, we see ourselves as we have already have a wall. Why should we go there? Why should we have anything to do with them? Let them be on their own, let us be on our own. The crisis came and separated us. But with the coming in of the UN Women, now we can go to the Muslim community and even buy some things, and Muslims do come here too. Yeah, like in the area of women, some of them are not doing anything. What we do is after these trainings, we empower them to do certain things to help themselves.
Mun fara program da su, sun koya mana yadda za mu yi mu saya mu yi abu, kuma sun koya mana su yi mana empowerment. Shi yasa yau ina da shago, ana iya sayan aiki. Dama ban da shago. Don dama na yi a bishiya, a gindin bishiya, ba shago, yes. So ta dalilin meeting din da na shiga, shine yasa da na fara.
The promotion of women and the advocacy for women to be more involved in legislative processes by seeking political positions and other public decision-making positions that will help them make policy frameworks that will effectively support the implementation of the National Action Plan. which also includes developing the state action plans and the local government action plans.
Ana siyasa, to mu ta nan area mu ya zama na mu mata ba a son samu a ciki saboda ba a sai a ga kaman addini ya hana mace ta shigo cikin wannan al'amari. To a wannan program da muka zo muka nuna musu maganar gender. To yanzu wannan karon kan ma sun nuna ana so ma 11 local government da muke da shi a Gombe state ana sa a ba kowace mace guda ɗaya a local government din as a candidate ko councilor ko chairman.
Da mu ba mu iya ma magana cikin mutane ba. Idan aka sa mutane 10 ma mace kamar ni ba zan iya tashin yi magana a gaban su ba. Da muka samu koyarwa na fara tunanin cewa na yadda zan fita domin mu ma mata a ce an taba yi da mu a ward din. Domin in fita neman kansila. Na fita ba da murya na kadai ba da matan sun hada kai sun ce yanzu idan na fita su za su goya min baya. Shi yasa na fita neman kansila. Shi yasa lokacin primary na ban samu da soki ba mu mutane 6 ne maza 5 ni ɗaya a cikinsu. Amma ranan da kuri'un mata ma na riga na ka da shi.
The Women Peace and Security Project made me to really come out of my shell and contest for member representing Yola North, Yola South and Gire Federal Constituency because I have the passion to help my people.
Increasing the number of women in the state peace architecture and ensuring their equal and full participation in peacemaking, peacekeeping and peace-building efforts has not only achieved gender sensitivity and equality, but has also contributed to improving the quality of dialogues, early warning systems and rapid response mechanisms for conflict resolution in the states. Civil populations are gravely affected by violent conflicts, but there has always been a distinction in the nature of how such conflicts affect women and girls. The objective of Component 2 was to increase the access which women and girls had to report cases of human rights abuses and other forms of violence, and to also have easy access to protective services. The primary tools used to achieve this component was the effective use of disaggregated data on the violation of the rights of children and women, ensuring an effective and coordinated response to violence against girls and women, and increase awareness to address social norms and behavior in order to prevent VAC and GBV and to report cases of violence.
In fact, in 2014, the National Population Commission of Nigeria conducted a very important survey, a national survey on the prevalence of violence against children, and the findings were alarming, really indicating that 1 out of 2 children in Nigeria suffer severe forms of physical violence before reaching 18, and 1 in 4 girls suffer sexual violence. So really, it's a very high prevalence. What was even more shocking is that from all those children that suffer violence in Nigeria, less than 7% seek any help, and less than 5% of those that seek support receive any support whatsoever. So basically, children are suffering a lot and in silence with no help. So really, there was a dire need to address that issue.
This principle of the culture of silence, there was so much stigma attached to reporting gender-based violence. Whether it's your partner, your spouse, people feel some things should be kept in the bedroom. Whether rapes of young minors, we felt many parents would rather keep the issue under the carpet than report it because of the stigma attached to the child. And so we were able to tell them that gender-based violence is a human rights violence. It's a human rights abuse.
Wata yarinya a community ɗinmu wani da wani ya rafin ɗinta sunanta Khadija. Ya rafin ɗinta sannan sai ya zo ya ce shi ba shi yayi ba, ya denying. Aka rubuta report muka kawo Women Affairs sannan suka haɗa mu da Human Rights, daga Human Rights aka haɗa mu da Federation of Women Lawyers akan za a ɗau mataki akan case ɗin.
We have used this platform to go into those localities and communities to enlighten people about human rights. And what we have also noticed about women's rights and what has helped us also in the commission is that we've been able to enlighten women about their rights. They have also involved the issue of girls, our young girls, who have hitherto been abused. Some of them don't even know where to go to because they don't know their rights. Through this program, we've had an increase even in our office of reports of human rights violations, because people have heard that you have a right. You don't. The issue of silence, it must be broken. You have to report when you are violated, when you are abused, and because of that, we've had quite an increase in the number of complaints that have come to us bordering on gender issues, especially women and girls.
Through numerous engagements in all the target states, there has been a greater appreciation and awareness about the peculiar abuses and threats women and children face in times of crisis. And by mapping out and addressing the pre-existing institutional and social cultural norms and behaviors which contributed to the violence, concrete steps have been taken to mitigate the impact of armed conflict on women and girls.
We've trained so far the Peace Building Agency, we've trained the NSCDC, preparing them to house the early warning ICT structure once it is deployed on a temporary basis, pending the time that the governor in the 2 states have ready structures like we do in Operation Rainbow, so that it can be a standalone agency.
This program has actually given us a boost, because we now know that we are not going it alone, that taking the parochial thinking about men and men alone and involving women in the peace architecture of the state, they can do a lot in prevention.
It's the willingness and the enthusiasm of these actors to collectively and collaboratively, and for the first time, to include and mainstream issues of gender within their response strategy. For me, it has been most wonderful.
The objective of Component 3 is to support a conducive environment for implementation of Resolution 1325 at the national level and in the selected states, local government areas and wards, and promote access of women and girls to justice and other services.
But if you have a national action plan that is not domesticated at the state level, there is a gap. So what UN Women did was to support the 3 states we work in to ensure that they develop state actions plans.
Every state or critical MDA is expected to put into the work plan, their annual work plans, the activities that are spelled out in the action plans, both the national at the national level, then the state action plans at the state level. To put into their work plans, the activities spelled out in the action plans, so that it becomes part of their day-to-day or periodic activities. And these work plans are the activities so included in the work plans are those activities that are budgeted for by the states and the national and then even the MDAs.
Plateau State Gazette, the Gender and Equal Opportunity Law. I want to appreciate our legislators and for making it possible for this law, for assenting to this law, and our state government for signing this law. It shows that the state is sensitive to global call.
The UN Women has really helped us to make that bill, and presently, the bill was with the Ministry of Justice, but just last week it was returned to the ministry. Now it is only to check in the corrections that the Ministry of Justice has made, and then forward it to the Honorable Commissioner so that she can forward it to the executives. From there, then it will go to the House of Assembly for the passage. So we are hoping that very soon the bill will be passed.
The level it is now is the bill is with His Excellency the Executive Governor, And we have also submitted a copy to the Honorable Commissioner and Attorney General, the Commissioner of Justice. He has gone through, and to the extent due to the GOB bill, now we have gotten an approval in the Executive Council to establish rights agency.
Search for Common Ground actually played a major role in the third component of the WPS project, which was basically to create a conducive environment for the implementation of UNSCR 1325. And in providing a conducive environment for that, the third component hoped to achieve the implementation of the National Action Plan, the State Action Plan, and the Local Action Plan, and also enhance further engagement with stakeholders to ensure the passage of gender bills in the 3 states and at the federal level, and then raise awareness on 1325, NAP, SAP, and LAP at the community level. And it was able to achieve that through radio and TV engagements with stakeholders, most especially the beneficiaries of the WPS project, and also women achievers.
One of the critical points, like you mentioned, is to create visibility for the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. And the UN then felt that the media is quite critical if that visibility must be achieved. So, and the engagement between the UN women and the media is not just at a secondary level, it's at a constructive level of engagement. So they felt that instead of just inviting journalists or media practitioners to come and just report the events that they are doing, they say no. Let us build a critical mass of the media and form them into a network.
We must appreciate UN Women. You know, Media Network now is a registered body with the Corporate Affairs Commission. And we believe this program is coming to an end. We strategize and develop a sustainability plan. In our sustainability plan, we are to embark on media advocacy to various MDAs in the state. So far, so good. We have advocated to the Minister of Information, whereby funds were allocated in the 2018 budget line for creating of publicity and awareness of the WPS program in the state.
Women, most of the time, are not only victims of conflicts, they can also be agents of conflicts. And for this reason, they shouldn't be left out in any peace negotiation and decision making.
The bottom-up approach really helped because it gave the locals a sense of belonging, that this project is their own. And because of that, we have confidence that even after our closeout, the project will still continue.
We were happy with this program, and we don't want the program to stop. We have reached a lot of women in different endeavors, in different institutions. So we now register an NGO, which is Adamawa Women Peace Initiative. And we have already started working. We have started touching communities that the WPS program has not reached. And that is for sustainability. And we intend to continue this work maybe till the end of our life.
With funds from the EU, the tireless efforts of the MOWASD, UN Women, UNICEF, with support from SFCJ, WANEP, UNDP, and IPCR, women of all ages, social class, ethnicities, and religions across numerous communities in northern Nigeria are overcoming the obstacles that had hindered them from becoming active participants in creating a safer and more secure society.
Sabarka UDE, Sabarka EU, Sabarka UN, Sabarka Quiz, Sabarka Form 1, Sabarka Search for Common Ground.